Hello, and welcome to Travel Stories Unpacked, the travel podcast where we talk about all things from the silly to the serious and everywhere in between. So if you love travel and hearing all of the opinions and stories that go along with it, then you have come to the right place. And I am your host, Ashley Newton. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me. I really appreciate it. And on this week's episode, we are going to unpack living abroad. So if you've been following the podcast for a while, you know that this is not going to be my story because I have lived about 40 minutes from my hometown my whole life. So of course I had to get a guest on that has lived this and experienced this. So welcome to the show, Cari, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So all I really know is that you lived in Germany for a period of time and now you're back in the US.
Yes. So I was actually there because my husband was in the military and we were stationed there in Garmisch, which is like 45 minutes from Munich, so southern Germany.
Okay, so how long had you and your husband been married when he came to you and was like, we're moving to Germany?
We were married for about 3 years.
Did you know, like, sort of getting into this relationship that relocating might be a thing? Like, had you guys talked about it?
Yeah, he actually joined the military after we had already been together.
Okay.
So it was something he had always wanted to do. And I'm like, okay, just kind of going with it, not really sure if he was going to go through with it. And he did. And it took us to so many great places.
So were you initially excited, anxious?
I was so excited because I am German. So it was nice to be able to experience that firsthand.
Yeah. So had you ever been there before?
No.
Okay. So first time and you just dove into it.
Yes.
So when you're going for a military situation, do they sort of figure all of that out for you? Do you have like your living accommodations figured out?
Oh, no.
Really?
No. We don't know.
I thought you'd get like a packet in the mail and it would have like your little like house key and like all this information, but they don't walk you through that at all then.
No, they basically say, okay, go get your passport. Here's your plane ticket. Get on this flight. And we landed in Frankfurt. We were actually supposed to go somewhere else, I believe. And then they're like, nope, you're going here.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So we didn't know anything.
So did you have to figure out like where you were going to live on your own?
Luckily,
once you got there,
yes.
They were taking care of that. Okay. So how long until you were in like your permanent residence?
That night we actually moved in, but we didn't have like our furniture or household goods or anything. So
had you seen it at all?
No.
Or so you had no idea what it was going to be like? That's so brave. Like, I think I'd be just like, I do well with a lot of information. So I think my brain would be filling in the blanks with like the worst possible case scenario. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what was it like when you actually got there? Was it an apartment? Was it like single living? What was that like?
So it was basically an apartment.
And it's just you and your husband?
And our daughter, who was 1.5 years at the time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. So it was fun moving with the toddler overseas, not having
What was the
anything.
flight alone?
Oh, luckily my kids are great travelers. So the 8-hour, 10-hour flight.
Oh, that's awesome. That's such a blessing. Yeah.
Yes.
So the three of you arrive, you get there. What was settling in like? What was all of that process for you?
It did take a while to get all of our stuff. So we were living out of suitcases for a month or so.
Yeah.
Didn't have a vehicle, so walked, relied on people to take us, things like that. So, but the base that we were at was such a small base that you could walk everywhere. And we totally embraced the European aspect of walking, riding a bicycle.
Yeah.
Just taking all of that in.
So you were staying on a base. So was everybody else on the base also American, or what was
living there?
Yeah.
Yes, they were American, but there were some locals and German army that were also on the base. So.
Okay. So did you spend a lot of time on the base, or did you like go out and try to immerse yourself?
Oh, I went out every chance I could.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'm so curious about that. So was it mainly just you and like your daughter when you were doing that?
Yes. My husband was working like crazy. So for the majority of it, especially like around town,
Yeah.
it was just me and her. So we'd hop on a bicycle and throw her in one of those bike carriers and just go. We'd pick up groceries along the way. It was beautiful.
Did people know that you were like from the American military base?
Oh, yes.
Is that just like proximity, or were there things that you felt like gave you away?
Maybe just the culture shock. It was
Yeah.
very different. I wasn't used to, the stores, because the commissary didn't have everything. It was a very small grocery store on the base, so we did have to go outside of the base to find certain things and, just navigating, living in a different country.
So what are some of those things, because we love food on this podcast.
Right.
We always bring it back to food. What are some of the things that stood out to you about like your first time grocery shopping off the base in Germany?
The one thing that stands out that they had that I wish they do have here in the United States are ketchup potato chips.
They did have those here
Did
for
they?
like, are you talking about Lay's?
No.
Okay, because Lay's had a ketchup flavor because I used to work at a gas station, so I remember trying it with like my coworkers and stuff, but it didn't last. Like, I don't think it like took off here.
I think maybe it was the texture.
Interesting.
The texture was different. My daughter loved them, and it was just the weirdest things. They were these little teddy bears, but they were ketchup flavored, and she loved them.
Teddy bears, but potato chip?
Yeah. It was really weird.
They were ketchup flavored, teddy bear shaped potato chips. I am so intrigued by that.
I'll have to find some and see if I can get you some.
Is there anything that you couldn't find in Germany that you like is something that we just always have in the US?
I don't remember specifically.
So it wasn't like trying to find like let's say you love ranch or something and you're like doing a recipe and you're like, oh my God, I can't find this key ingredient I use all the time or anything like that.
I don't think so, because we're not picky. We're not like specific to brand. So I'm like, okay, sure.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe if we were a little more picky, and then it would have been more difficult, but we're pretty adventurous eaters.
I think I'm an adventurous eater until I meet somebody that's like in that level above me, and I'm like, I'm a baby. But I'll try usually anything at least once. You know what I mean? And then after that, I'm like, okay, I can put that in the no pile and sort of move on. But something that I do love is German food. No, I haven't been to Germany, so like I'm having, the Americanized version of that maybe.
Yes.
But do you feel like, have you had a lot of German food in like this area? Like this Northeast Ohio area specifically?
It's kind of hard because, like I said, I grew up German, so we ate a lot of German food growing up.
Okay.
So that was nice, how to learn how to cook it before I even went over there. I was like, oh.
So growing up in it, did you find like that helped you almost like assimilate and be able to cook like with the ingredients that you found there? Like it was just very natural for you because this is what you grew up with?
Yeah, going downtown and hitting up the local markets. I'm like, oh, I know what this is. Let's make this. So it was helpful.
Now, also thinking about like trying to navigate the markets, I'm thinking of like if you can recognize something visually, like an orange is an orange or like spatzel is spatzel. Did you know enough German to be able to like read labels?
At the market, for the most part, I got all my fruits down. Vegetables are a little trickier.
Okay. Now, were there a lot of people that were speaking English as well? Like if you needed help, or was it very like German in your area?
It's actually funny because we would walk down there and we would try to speak German. They would look at us and just automatically switch to English. I'm like, no, I'm trying to practice.
How are you supposed to learn?
Unless it was like the much older generation, they spoke no English.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do think like it would be nice like if you are like struggling to have somebody be like, I speak English. Like I can get you through this. But I have heard that not just in Germany, but just like in other countries in general, if you are clocked as being American, they're going to just speak to you in English because it's like, I don't really have the time to like sit here and listen to you struggle as you like place your order or whatever. So I think that is interesting.
Yes.
How would you say overall, though, you felt when you were like being like very clearly identified as American? Was there any sort of like attitude that went along with that? Like, did you feel welcomed, or did you feel like, oh, they can tell I'm not a local, they don't really want to deal with me? What was that like?
I feel like they opened their arms to everyone.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
love the German culture. It's just welcoming, very family oriented. So I loved it.
So how long were you there?
We lived there for 3 years.
Okay, so then your daughter goes from being like 1.5 to like 4.5 during that time. So what was that like for her? Like, was she picking up on like the culture and the language and everything?
Yeah, she went to a German kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
So I
that's
put her
awesome.
in a German school. She spoke barely any German, but by the end, she was my translator.
Yeah, I bet. So then how old is she now? Like, how long have you been back in the States?
11 years.
That she's been back. So does she still know any German?
Well, she does because she took German last year for school, but did not remember nearly as much as we thought she would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and you said growing up, your family would speak German. Do you think that, like, did she continue to do that with them? Or was it just like as soon as you were back, just like back to your old ways?
It was hard because I'm not as fluent as my 4-year-old was walking around a store. And I'm like, can you go ask if they have more of these in the back? And she'd walk over, little 4-year-old self, to the worker and have a whole conversation, come back, no, Mom. I'm like, okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your help. Oh, that is so cute, though.
Yes.
So what was she, like, how were you feeling when it was time to come home? Were you kind of sad to see it go, ready to get back to your comfort?
It was mixed feelings because I definitely loved it there, but I felt like I was ready to come home. There were certain things about convenience, family, things like that. But as soon as my feet hit the ground in the U.S., I'm like, okay, let's go back.
Aw. Well, have you been back?
I have not.
Do you ever? Yeah, okay. So you'd like to. It just hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See, I think that is really cool. Having never lived anywhere else myself, I feel like you do sort of create a bond that is just going to last with the people and the place. So I hope that you get to make it back.
Me too.
Is there anything that you didn't get to do there that you're like, this is for sure what I'd want to do when I go back?
I did not go to northern Germany and see the Black Forest.
I don't know much about the Black Forest, aside from like, I don't know, like fairy tales and things. Like, it just sounds like forbidden. So what is some of the stuff that you did get to experience when you were there that really stands out when you look back all these years?
We are very much nature people. So we fit right into the German culture with their love of hiking, biking.
I don't think I knew that about German culture.
At least in Bavaria, it was.
Gotcha.
Yes. Very, very strong, where Sundays were family days. So you would see almost every family going for a hike.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, that's cute.
With their kids in their backpacks, the hiking backpacks, and just going.
Which I'm sure for you at the time, being somewhere you've never been, like having this young kid yourself, just feeling like, oh, I'm around a bunch of other families and other people going through this, probably made that transition a little bit more easy to embrace, maybe.
Yeah.
You're like, I fit in. Like, I have one of these. I can do this.
We actually had a second over there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So how does that work? Just because you're on the U.S. base, automatically U.S. citizenship?
I believe it's dual citizenship because our base was so small we didn't have a hospital. So he was born in a German hospital.
Okay. So now does he maintain that like forever, or
I
like
believe it's until he's 18. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't see him wanting to be a German citizen over a US citizen just because of the legality of it. Might be a little difficult.
I've never like looked into dual citizenship, but the more that I look into it, the more I am like, that would just be kind of cool. You get your like 2 passports, and like there's a lot of countries that like all you have to do is be like, I was from here at one point, and they'll be like, that's cool. Welcome home. Like, that just sounds fun to me. So if you are listening to this and you have dual citizenship or you've looked into it, let us know a little bit more about what that experience is like, because I'm very curious. You mentioned earlier culture shocks and how that was just a bit. Do you remember anything that you just like were so, I don't want to say culture shock again, but were there any culture shocks that really stand out as something you weren't expecting?
Yes, but it's actually funny what the culture shocks are that really stand out
Tell me.
versus like how it translates to our COVID era. So,
Okay.
you know, stores closing by 6 p.m. I'm like, oh, okay. Made me think of COVID when I was, you know, going through my memory bank. I'm like, oh, that's why I was able to succeed during COVID, not having those things accessible.
That's really interesting because in the US, we are so used to just everything like being at our fingertips sort of all the time. But I remember growing up, even my grandma and my mom being like, that's new. Like, it wasn't always like that. You couldn't just like rely on everything all the time. And I won't lie, having like worked in the service industry, I'd be okay if we went back to that. Like, I don't think every single corner store needs to be open 24 hours. Like, you don't like just people can adjust, people can plan for holidays. So I'd say point to Germany for that one.
100%.
Anything that you missed, like about culture, not necessarily like food or whatever, but something that was just like, you know, in America, we just do this and I didn't think about it, you know?
I just think it's slowing down as a culture.
Okay.
Slowing down, family first, like not rushing to the next thing, just enjoying and being in the moment.
That I think would be harder for us to change as a society.
I agree.
Like,
but that's what I miss.
Yeah, I bet. You know, I couldn't even imagine, like, really, how long do you feel like it took you to, like, get to that pace when you were immersed in it? Because I feel like even walking around, like, you can tell, like, oh, those are the Europeans leisurely going about, and then there's the American speed walking from, like, destination to destination. So, like, just little things like that. How long did it take you to, like, fully slow down and just, like, take on the pace of German culture?
I would say a good 6 to 9 months.
I think that's really good. I feel like it would take me a lot longer to like adjust even the way I talk. Like I'm a fast talker. So is it even like down to that sort of minute details where people just do everything at a little bit less of a quickened pace?
100%.
I don't know. I think the talking is what I would struggle with the most. Was there one area that you picked up on earlier, or like was it all just sort of like that slow having to be in it and then you just pick it up sort of thing?
It was definitely a gradual pick it up. Like, okay, I'll move a little slower. Oh, I didn't go to the store today. Let's make do. Just more laid back.
Gotcha. So now I'm thinking about like when I think of American culture and like what it is. We covered its fast pace. That's nothing new. But then I'm also kind of thinking about like our holiday culture. So like obviously like 4th of July is a big American holiday. Now, since your base was so small, did they do anything for like American centric holidays, or did those just like sort of go away during those years?
They were still there. I would say not as largely celebrated, but I will tell you, Germany has a lot of holidays. A lot of celebrations.
Any favorites that you got to experience?
So my favorite part would be when they would celebrate the cows coming home. The streets would be lined with people. The cows would all have these bells on, and it would just be a parade of cows walking down the street.
Oh my gosh, that literally sounds like something out of a movie.
Right.
So, like, how do the cows come home? Like, do they just know? Or is there, like, people, like, that get to have the honor of leading the cows back home?
I believe there were specific people designated to lead the cows, and there would be the one cow that would lead the whole way with its owner and just start the parade, and they would all be decorated.
What an honor if you were like the person in the town that was like, hey Phil, it's your turn to lead the cows. Like, I feel like that would be like such an exciting moment.
Right.
So obviously you're watching the cows come in. Is there music? Is there food? Is there drinking? Like, what is it like to be a spectator of this event?
So all of the above, because
all right, I'm there.
Germans celebrate big. All the food, definitely drinking, but my favorite would be all the kids lining up the streets just cheering the cows on, which I thought was just the cutest things.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So when I think of cows, I think of like dairy cows. Were they dairy cows? Do you have any idea what the cows did for work?
I'm not sure.
Because I'm thinking like if we were to do this like in Ohio where we're based out of, like those would be dairy cows. So everything affiliated with it would be dairy. You know what I mean? Like you want a beer, it's a dairy beer. You want some food, it's cheese. You know what I mean? So like what did it feel like that? Or was it just like a big festival with all sorts of different foods and drinks? And
It was
stuff?
all different foods. It wasn't like the way we take festivals, like, oh, let's have an Italian festival, only Italian food.
Yeah.
It would be like open to everything. Just
we are very into themes.
we are.
Like I'm also very into themes, so like it works for me.
Their theme was cow.
Cow was the theme. So would people get like dressed for it? Like was there like not dressed as cows, but like I don't know, would people, I'm thinking in the US people always wear like, I don't know, like a themed t-shirt or like there's always like a vibe. Was it like that or is that
No.
a very US element?
I would say that's a very US element. It's just casual.
So you don't have people in like those zip up cow onesies on the street?
No, but that would be great.
I think that would also immediately identify you as non-German, most likely
yes.
American.
I agree.
So I have to ask about the only like festival or event that I think of, Oktoberfest.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? Is it like, because in the US we tend to borrow other people's cultures and celebrations and then Americanize them. So I'm very curious, you know, what it was actually like to experience Oktoberfest in Germany. Is it as big of a deal as we like to build it up to be in the US?
I would say yes. It is a really big deal, big celebration. I did only go 1 year, and it's very family based, which we think of Oktoberfest as a drinking game.
I would say definitely heavy alcohol, like the sort of thing where like you can entertain the kids maybe from like 9 to 5, but after that, you know, you better clear on out of the festivities. But it was very family oriented from beginning to end.
I didn't stay till the very end. I'm an early bird. I like my early bird special and then go home and go to bed.
All right, respect.
You know, during daytime hours, they had the drinking tents, and you had a lot of Germans and Americans and other cultures come in. But outside of the tents, there's like carnival games and rides, and it definitely takes it more towards a family event rather than just
binge
focused
drinking.
on, yes.
Well, that sounds nice. And honestly, I'm the sort of person that whenever I'm at those, I want to play the games.
Right.
Like I want to do all the stuff that's kind of like for kids. So I always like to look around and see if other adults are doing it too, or if it's like literally just for the kiddos, because then I'd feel like I'm encroaching on their fun. But was there any like games that stood out to you as something you had never seen before? Because I feel like here it's always the same things. You have like ring toss, or like, I don't know, I can't think of any other fair games. Usually something with like a dice or, but they're almost like impossible. Like they're not really meant to be won. Was it like that, or were there different cultural games?
I would say about the same.
Yeah. None
of them are really standing out. But then they definitely had food, of course, which all festivals are.
So did I ask you already what your favorite? It's hard because you grew up on it, but what is your favorite German food?
I don't know if I have a favorite.
I do. I have so many favorites.
Oh,
well, tell me if they're really German. Can you do that?
Okay.
Okay, is
Maybe.
German potato salad, where it's like a cold or warm potato salad, but usually very tangy, maybe some onion in there, but like no mayo. There's
That is
never
German.
any mayo in like German potato salad I've had. So that's real.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's normally like a vinegar base.
Yes. I love German potato salad. And anybody that says it's not real potato salad can fight me in the comments because it's so good. Another German food I like is like German style green beans, which again, anytime I've had them is very similar to the potato salad vibe, where it's like that vinegary, but they're like always covered in like bacon and like just
I don't
delicious.
recall having that there, but Maybe.
If you can find them, the first time I had them was the German village, I guess you would call it, area down in Columbus. I don't know if
Okay.
you've been there.
I have not.
But I went to like one of the like oldest restaurants there, and they had like, you know, the little buffet out for us because it was an event. And I was like, this is the best vegetable I've ever had. Cover any vegetable in bacon though, and it will be the best vegetable you've ever had. I know German chocolate cake is not actually German.
Yes.
Named after the guy who made it, whose name was German. Is that right?
I think so.
So I know that one's not real. And then the other thing that is Spatzel and Spätzle. Are those things really German?
Yes.
Okay. Do you like either one of those?
I love. Yes.
I love. Oh, hold on. I always get this confused. Spatzel is. Wait, what did I just say? Spatzel and Spätzle? I feel like now I'm just saying Hansel and Gretel. Like I'm never gonna get those words out again.
We've
What
just
are
always
they?
referred to it as Spätzle.
Spätzle. Spatzel? Well, one of them is like pounded breaded meat, and then the other one is like a doughy
Are you thinking of Jaeger Schnitzel?
schnitzel and Spatzel.
Schnitzel.
Schnitzel.
Yes.
So then you were thinking of the doughy thing,
Yes.
and I was thinking of the meat. I mean, I like them both.
Yes.
But there are tons of places, if you are not from a German family and you do not have the ability to cook it all on your own, that you can try these things out. And I was very curious how it sort of held up. So I at least know they are authentic dishes. Whether or not they taste super authentic, I guess, would have to be left up to somebody that's, you know, been there.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have like a taste off. If I brought a bunch of food to work, would you try it?
Of course.
All right, let us know if you want to see us eating a bunch of German food because I would love to do that. So,
Who's making it though?
well, I would buy it. I would
Oh.
buy it. But if you made it and then we did a taste test versus the store bought, then we'd have multiple options. You could be like letting me know how good it is and if I'm wasting my money at these restaurants.
Or I could just taste it and skip the making of it.
That sounds good too. Well, Cari, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your time in Germany. I guess to close, do you have any advice for somebody who is looking to either visit Germany or spend some time living abroad?
I would just say slow down and definitely take it all in. You know, you don't have to rush from one thing to another because then I feel like you miss so much along the way.
Yes. You know, I think that is great advice for travelers in general, and definitely something that I struggle with because you don't want to miss out. You want to squeeze in as much as you can. But I love that advice. Just a reminder to slow down, take it all in, and
Yes.
embrace it.
And try to go off the beaten path. Don't always hit up the top tourist attractions. Try to find that little town. And you'll find some great things along the way.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. Find your little town. Find your little town on your next vacation. And, you know, it leads me to a larger discussion about tourist traps and landmarks.
look
So
at
I'd
that.
really love to talk about that. We probably will. So stay tuned for a future conversation about, you know, tourist traps, because I just think that's interesting.
I can't wait. I'm definitely going to watch that one.
Awesome. Well, Cari, thank you again for coming on the show. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And don't forget to keep coming back on Fridays, where we're going to bring you new stories, new opinions, and all things travel. And don't forget to share your stories with us in the comments or anywhere on social media using hashtag #TravelStoriesUnpacked. This podcast is brought to you by KHM Travel Group, a leading host agency for independent travel agents. To learn more, go to khmtravel.com.